You're about to discover the secret to learning a language in 10 days. And what's amazing is that it only takes 30 minutes a day. Now, just to be clear, by 30 minutes, I don't mean 30 minutes of torture where you're trying to cram in grammar rules and spending endless time with flashcards or using any of the traditional ways of learning a foreign language taught in schools, universities, or by a private language tutor whom you might hire. And on top of that, I'm also going to explain to you why many people fail to learn a language from software-based tools like Rosetta Stone. Now, this accelerated learning methodology is so easy that you can start speaking immediately. Did you ever study a second language in high school or college? And you practiced grammar drills and studied sentence syntax. You memorized conjugations for endless lists of verbs. I talk, you talk, she talks, we talk. How fun was that? After all that effort, most students still struggle to speak comfortably with natives and don't have perfect pronunciation. I'm going to share with you the biggest insight into language learning that was discovered almost 50 years ago by Dr. Paul Pimsleur, someone you could call the Einstein of learning language. Before written history, we had an oral history. Most people, even kings and queens, couldn't write or read in ancient times. Even today, still 25% of the world's population of 7 billion can't read, which is about 2 billion people. And these adults can function and interact normally with each other. But when you look at the industrialized nations, which have a 97% literacy rate, one of the biggest challenges to learning another language is the fact that adults are able to read and write, at least initially. Let me explain what I mean. Before we learned to read and write, we learned to speak. And Dr. Pimsleur discovered how adults can learn a language dramatically faster than children through a unique audio method that literally fools your brain into learning. His whole approach to language learning can be summed up by the statement, when you know what sounds right, everything else is easy. You first learn to speak by interacting with your parents. And your brain is designed to learn a language through conversation. Here's proof. If I tell you, I bread needs, you instantly know that my grammar is off and I should be saying, I need bread. You don't need to think analytically about verb conjugation, sentence syntax, and so forth. That's all boring and unnecessary stuff. To put it another way, if you can't speak another language and you've tried to learn before, you're probably doing something wrong. It's why you're nervous speaking with others. You have difficulty remembering vocabulary. You have a thick accent, perhaps. You spent hours on end trying to memorize flashcards, and when you ask a native a question, you can't understand anything that's being said back to you. That's no way to learn. So, how do you start speaking another language in 10 days? Reason number one, 100% audio based. All you have to do is push play and listen. After finishing these lessons, you're going to naturally grasp and speak the language using practical words and phrases. You'll learn like a child does by mastering speaking before reading or writing. Keep in mind, we don't focus on reading or writing because it distracts you from intuitively learning a language by ear. Reason number two, short and manageable lessons. Each lesson is 30 minutes long, and you only need to listen to one lesson per day. Let's be practical. If you're like most of our customers, that's more than enough for your average day. Reason number three, learn anytime, anywhere, even while doing other activities. You probably have multiple obligations in your life between work, family, and play, right? Well, having a program that you can take anywhere allows you to fit learning into your schedule without changing your daily habits. You can listen on your iPod or MP3 player, which means you can learn anywhere. On your lunch break, during your drive or walk to work, while getting dressed in the morning, while shaving, while you're working out, while cooking, while washing the dishes. Reason number 4, it's fun. You're going to be learning a valuable skill, and you're going to be having fun doing it. And you're going to remember what you learn without trying or studying. Reason number 5, learn the most common words and phrases. Can you believe the English language has over 1 million words and phrases? In English and in most languages, we only use about 2,500 words and phrases, what we call building blocks, in everyday conversation. If you only focused on even a subset of these building blocks, you'd feel proficient and confident speaking a language. That's exactly what the Pimsleur approach does. Reason number 6, no rote memorization. It's not intimidating. In the past, you may have had to memorize lots of words, but with this program, you're going to remember without trying. And I promise, nothing repeats over and over and over. Reason number 7, you'll sound like you were born there. This program teaches you to speak with ease, and you're going to speak without an accent, if you can believe that or not. So you will actually sound like a native. You want people to think you're a local. That's what really makes you feel like an insider. Reason number 8, based on 50 years of scientific research. It's been used and tested on millions of people, and it's literally been scientifically sequenced to lock language into your brain. Reason number 9, learn quickly and intuitively. This course immediately immerses you into a foreign conversation to help you grasp the structure of the language. You're going to recognize what you hear, and you'll know what sounds right. So you won't need to study grammar. You're doing what's already natural to you in English. Amazingly, once you understand the syntax, that chaotic foreign sound so common to language learning disappears instantly. You'll start to recognize words and phrases, and you can reuse what you know to talk about new topics. Reason number 10, design with adults in mind. There is a myth that only children can learn a language quickly, and that is not true. And what's remarkable is that you'll learn much faster than a child does because of the accelerated learning principles Dr. Pimsleur incorporated into his program. Now, the most important reason you should buy this course today is that it's on sale. We're celebrating Pimsleur's 30-year anniversary. Pimsleur is a best-selling and world-famous language method that's been relied on by more than 25 million people over the past 30 years, and it has an impressive track record. The Pimsleur approach receives positive press coverage from many prominent news organizations. New York Times, the Daily News, Forbes, PBS, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the Boston Herald, the list goes on. Dr. Pimsleur was a linguist, a professor, and researcher. What really fascinated Dr. Pimsleur was how quickly many children were able to pick up a second language. He just couldn't understand why students were forced to memorize grammar rules, useless phrases, and endless lists of verbs. He defined 4 revolutionary principles that form the backbone of his unique methodology. Principle number 1, graduated interval recall. Dr. Pimsleur timed how long students remember new information and at what intervals they need to be reminded of it. If reminded too soon or too late, students fail to retain the information. Principle number 2 is anticipation. Dr. Pimsleur discovered that repetition alone is not enough. You're required to anticipate answers to questions, which forces you to actively think about words you've previously spoken without having the chance to stop and think. Principle number 3 is organic learning. Organic learning means natural learning. As kids, we learn to speak before we learn to write. Dr. Pimsleur's research proves that we naturally assimilate language through hearing. This should be the foundational step in learning a language. Traditional schooling does the exact opposite. Principle number 4 is core vocabulary. We only need a limited number of words to effectively communicate in any language. The real trick is not how many words you know, but rather how well you use the words you do know. By only focusing on the core essentials, you can dramatically decrease the time it will take to learn your second language. Our proficiency guarantee. You're absolutely guaranteed to learn the Pimsleur way. Where do you want to travel? If you only speak English, then you're not living life to the fullest. You don't want to look back in 20 years and feel some frustration and regret because you never followed your dreams. Even if you travel abroad, when you don't know the language, you're at the mercy of those who may or may not speak English. And you'll never know if they're taking advantage of you or trying to rip you off. There's a better way. People's opinion of you will change instantly when they find out you know another language. When you speak the language, you'll develop a new level of rapport and win over natives in no time. You're one small step away from getting closer to the life you want to live.